Hello, you're listening to the Smart Women of Business podcast. My name is Jane Mackay from Jane Mackay Communications, and on this show, we talk to smart women in business all over the world about starting, building, and creating the life and business of your dreams while having incredibly honest, in-depth, and rich conversations with amazing women in business who will inspire you to become a smart woman of business. Hello and welcome to the Smart Women in Business vlog and podcast. I'm your host, Jane Mackay from Jane Mackay Communications, marketing consultant and coach who works with women across the world to build the business of their dreams. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to my friend, Jodie Wilmer. Jodie is the co-founder of Happy Changemakers based in East Gippsland, Victoria, Australia, same as me. Happy Changemakers helps small businesses owners cut through the noise, achieve breakthroughs, and take decisive steps towards their business goals without the usual overwhelm. Jodie and her business and life partner, Robert Nagy, do this through business planning and mentoring programs. For over 20 years, Jodie has worked with changemakers in not-for-profits and social enterprises. And over the past 7 years, this has expanded to include for-profit businesses with a purpose, including an increasing number of small businesses who want to create positive change and recovery and resilience programs for small businesses in regional and rural areas impacted by droughts, bushfires, and COVID-19. And we are all of the above in East Gippsland, aren't we, Jodie?
That's for sure.
It's been a massive couple of years out here. So you've had such an interesting career over 20 years. So tell me about your business journey and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
So
I'm an
welcome.
avid long-term listener. Initially my first sort of real job, so to speak, other than working in bookshops, was working for an industry association in the tourism industry. And so I guess that was a funny sort of mix of working for a not-for-profit association, but the members were small businesses who provided amazing experiences for people in accommodation, tours, you name it. So that was sort of my first experience of working with lots of small businesses en masse. And I just remember one of the workshops that we used to run was called Starting Up in Tourism. And behind the scenes, we used to say that it was about if we could stop people from starting a business that was going to lose all their superannuation or cause, major drama, then that was success. And I think just because people can start a business doesn't mean they should necessarily do that. Sometimes it's good to go down a different path. So I think that initial experience in tourism really helped me understand that maybe people have to go away and have some other experiences before they're ready to start a business that can sometimes be all-consuming. And as you know as well, a lot of your listeners as well, running your own business can be all-consuming. So yeah, my initial sort of career started with an industry association in tourism, and then I worked at Ayers Rock Resort, which was an amazing experience too.
Wow. I didn't know you worked at Ayers Rock.
Yeah. I actually, in the days before the internet, when I wrote a handwritten letter for my application.
Were children.
That's right, exactly. And so I put in my letter as my opening sentence, "Oh, you'd be so proud of me, Jane, with your copywriting skills." I said, "I'm the sort of person that no matter where I am in the world, people stop and ask me for directions."
Perfect, Sal. I love it. Boom, done.
Yeah, and so and they loved that, and they figured they were pretty good qualities to be in guest relations. And so I was really fortunate that the person who was doing the recruiting was a former exchange student from Rotary, and I also was an exchange student, so we had something in common there. But I think our initial starting of our own business with Rob and I really came from wanting to be of service to people, and I think that my background initially in tourism was a big part of that. And so our first business together was actually coaching and supporting Airbnb hosts.
Yes, which you were very successful at. And I was thinking of you the other day because a friend of mine is a Airbnb person, and I thought, but I know you don't do that anymore.
We don't, no.
Just tell me, I'd love to hear about your learnings from that, because Airbnb is such a new sort of business, but one that some people are incredibly successful at and other people just sort of try it and it doesn't quite go so well. So what do you think, like all the different sort of personality factors that are at play with successful entrepreneurship?
Well, I think it goes for people running any sort of business, whether it's a service-based business, a bricks and mortar, that we really have to set our clients or our guests up for success. And by that, I mean, so the way that we started our own initial business was Rob and I met and then fell in love, decided to move in together. And I had an apartment in Melbourne, and it has a fabulous view. And a friend told me about Airbnb, and I thought, oh, maybe what I could do is move in with Rob, and then I could rent it on Airbnb. And
give that a go, Jodie.
Give that a go. So, you know, we spent a couple of days zhuzhing and trips to IKEA and, you know, getting it all ready. And I remember thinking, again, back to sort of my initial tourism days, that I don't want to be bothered by people sending me WhatsApp messages in the middle of the night saying they don't know how to use something, right? Yeah. So I had to think about how we could sort of future-proof it. And so what we created, and Rob designed this fabulous house manual, which was sort of all the things that we knew about the apartment and, you know, our favourite coffee shops and things like that. And so we put it all in this amazing manual and printed it out and had it in the apartment. And so then what we decided to do was, because the guests were coming from all parts of the world, we needed to also make it super easy for them to check in. So we started using images to show people, you know, this is where you turn, this is, you know, where the car space is, all that sort of stuff. What we found was that not only did people feel really special and were delighted by that and the personal touches we did, like handwritten welcome letters and things like that, that we didn't get calls in the middle of the night from people not knowing how to do things. And what we found was that people were asking us how to do it. How did we set this up? And it was literally a friend said, oh, a friend of mine wants to rent out their place. Could you help them? And I had a cup of coffee. At that stage, I'd left my full-time role as a CEO of a not-for-profit. I was very, very burnt out, didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And then suddenly I was having all these cups of coffee. And we were like, actually, you know, we're spending a lot of time telling people how to do this. Maybe we could turn this into a business. And that's how it started.
Amazing. Because it's, in marketing, we always talk about surprise and delight, and customer experience. And people go, oh, you know, how am I going to do that? And it's really not that hard. Yeah. It's just people want to feel a bit special. Yeah. And it's nice to feel special. Mm-hmm. And I love working with clients about thinking about how ways you can do that with people. And it is that personalization. People want to feel seen and heard. And voila.
Exactly. And I think too, what is quite amazing about this model of Airbnb that's now sort of global and huge is that, you know, this notion of connecting with a local or living like a local. And I think in our businesses, there's always opportunities to delight people with the small things. And it could be as simple as sending handwritten cards, remembering somebody's significant event or birthday, celebrating their business anniversary, you know, noticing when people have successes and you know, being generous with compliments genuinely. I think, you know, that doesn't take effort. It doesn't cost anything, but people do remember it and they feel, as you say, heard and noticed. And I think we all want to connect with other people and sort of be part of a community. And the only way you can do that is by fostering it yourself.
And I think that the last 14 months have really demonstrated that importance of connection with other people. And I spoke about it actually in a pod last week about people are moving away from those evergreen funnels and they want to feel intimately connected with people because connection is one of our hierarchy of human needs. And when you make people feel connected, they will go the extra mile to give you a review or listen to your podcast or watch your YouTube video or leave you a review, whatever. And it just has returns in spades. Like it's just, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we noticed, especially working with small businesses during the bushfire recovery in our region, pardon me, in East Gippsland, and then COVID recovery, is that I think, people are so busy spinning their wheels, or busy trying to, do all the things, that they sometimes forget about the thing that lights them up, about what they enjoy about their business. And I think a lot of the work we do is helping people reconnect with that purpose, and about what is it that is the legacy they want to leave. And I don't mean necessarily, in 50 years' time, but even being able to think about the no cost, low cost things you can do that just are out of kindness, and help people, feel connected. And we noticed a lot of people were trying to do, Facebook ads and things where they felt awkward because they didn't want to sell at a time when people maybe didn't have the funds to buy. But, we said to a lot of our clients, especially about business planning, that, when was the last time you picked up the phone just to say hi
Yeah.
to your clients? Not to sell them anything, just to see how they're going.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not a phone caller, admittedly, I'm an emailer, but due to the fact I usually have children yelling in the background. But I just emailed a client this morning, and she's in America, so it's awkward anyway. But she's just emailed me back. She's like, I'm just getting into bed. Thank you for being a cheerleader of mine. And that's all people like, that little support, just one line, checking in, how you going? And that's all people need to feel that connection. And it doesn't have to be high cost. It just is higher touch, but it's not that investment. So it's
Exactly.
it's a lovely way to serve people in business as well.
Yeah. And I think we've just come across this notion of unscalable conversations through some workshops we've been doing for our own development, with Wake Up to Freedom, which is this really fantastic program. And unscalable conversations, meaning that, they're tailored. And, I found that, again, some of the things that we do really resonate for people, and leaving audio messages, and it's not about sort of bombarding people or encroaching on their space, but genuinely checking in to see how they're doing. And it's funny that sometimes people say, oh, I was just thinking of you the other day, or and I think that's not a sales strategy, right? That's a nurturing and just sort of service strategy. Exactly.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to run a business. I love it. I subscribe to it myself. So you and Rob, who's lovely, have, I hate to use the word pivot, but pivoted into this drought and bushfire recovery, COVID recovery. So how was that for you to make that switch from your old business to, because that's very local as well, especially around here?
Yep. Yeah, well, I guess our initial business, the Airbnb side of things, was really for the first 3 years of our time together. And then we realised that we were highly reliant on a platform that we had no control over. And we were working with clients all across the globe. And, we'd spoken at Airbnb Opens around the world and met the founders. It was quite an amazing journey. And, we have lots of lovely friends and memories about that. But we really wanted to do things that we could do from anywhere. But also we were really mindful that, a lot of the programs out there for small businesses were I guess, pitching at a level where it's either entry level or startup, or, people who were going to workshops and seminars that, really weren't helping them advance and grow. And I think, when we were looking for what was out there and, where's our superpower, what could we offer and do, we realised that Rob's background in technology and sales are pretty amazing superpowers. I mean, and his perspective on sales being of service and helping people really understand, the simple steps they can take is really unique. I think sometimes a lot of people overcomplicate it. And I guess for me, I was also thinking about what could we do with the skills that we have that could be of service to our community. And certainly we've been very fortunate to be able to work with some amazing businesses who have been impacted by bushfires in different ways. Some people sadly lost everything. Some people lost all their customers because, people couldn't travel. Everybody's been impacted in some shape or form.
Everybody in East Gippsland.
Everybody. And so I think what we recognised that was important was to allow people to just talk and be heard and not try and fix things, and people have amazing inner resilience and resources, but at times of distress and difficulty, it's hard to tap into them. And so, I guess we've helped people focus on the things that matter for them, and give people support to take action, not get overwhelmed by, the bajillion things to do, but maybe what's the one or two things to do.
One thing to do tomorrow.
Yep.
And the day after that. And, I keep coming back to Atomic Habits in this.
I love that book.
I love that book. Just 1% every day. And and that it's interesting you talk about not trying to fix things. And it's when you have conversations with people and you go, now are we in solution mode or are we in listening mode? And sometimes people just need listening mode. But I always dive into solution mode.
I do too. and I'm more aware of it now. And so, I will often ask people, what do you need from me? Yeah. And that I found a helpful question, because sometimes people will say, I just need you to listen. Or sometimes it's, I've got this big bundle of mess and I just don't know really where to, find the thread. So, something I'm very good at is actually taking a lot of chaotic information and thoughts and helping people make sense of it. And I've realized that actually in our business planning work, that is a superpower, because often people have no shortage of ideas, right?
Yeah.
No shortage of to-dos.
No shortage of shiny objects.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And, I always like to challenge people in a gentle way, sometimes in a little bit more forthright way.
I cannot imagine you being too harsh.
No, never harsh, but honest.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people tell themselves stories about this incredible amount of things that they can get through in a day, but actually, is it really the things that matter? And is it actually going to make you money? Is it going to make you enough money to live the lifestyle that you want and to do what you need? And often the case is no, especially a lot of women in business. We find people generally, women tend to really undercharge. And so, that really is something that we help try and give people an understanding of their true value and their worth.
Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because we get so caught up in the busyness of business that we feel if we're busy, we're productive, and we're not. Or like I always say, do the money making tasks first.
Yes,
it's easy to faff around and go, I'm very busy.
Yep.
But are you being productive? Is that, increasing your cash flow? And it's hard when you're in your business. And that's why having someone from the outside looking in is so valuable. And you'll find that all mentors have mentors and all coaches have coaches. And we all need that outside perspective, whether it's a group or an individual. It's so valuable.
Yeah,
so valuable. And
100%.
You can't see the gold in your business.
Yeah, that's right. And I was just working with someone the other day who's a copywriter who, is incredible and has amazing skills that I don't have. And, when I was listening to the transformation she creates and the difference she makes for her clients, and in a fairly simple process, it's not months and months of work. And I said to her, if you think about this, if you can help people get this result quickly like you can, it's actually worth more to people, because then they don't have to spend hours and hours. And it actually has more of a worth than you realise. And the other thing we did was sort of mapped out the effort involved. And what she realised by mapping out the effort, and by that I mean the time and the correspondence and all that jazz, she realised that she was sort of over-servicing them. And that there were actually some ways she could streamline things to make it easy for the client to get on board, easier for her to deliver, and easier for them to be able to then implement her solutions to, you know, improve their tone of voice and other things in their business. But when we looked at it as a package, she could charge double for it.
Yeah. It's so funny, that thing of most times you go to a coach or a mentor and they go, okay, your price is right, you need to double them, and it's so often you go you go what?
Yeah.
And you just are in that headspace, you're in a habit of undercharging.
Yeah.
But how do you find challenging people's mindsets around what they can charge?
Well, I think one of the issues for a lot of entrepreneurs is if they're not paying themselves a wage. And that's one of the first questions we ask when we're working with people, because if you're not paying yourself a wage, you don't feel a sense of self-worth, that you're doing all this effort and you're not getting anything in return. And often people don't then value their own time. And so by unpacking that, we can then say, well, what things in your business are you doing that are not the best use of your time or skills? Or it could be outsourced to a bookkeeper, a VA, or multiple people. And that you can then focus on the things that you're really good at. So I think that mindset of money or pricing is often at the root of, you know, we all have money mind blocks and things that we're all working through all the time. You're not there at a destination. You go, okay, tick that.
I'm done.
In your
I'm so over it. All over it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think just by asking some simple questions to understand where people are at, but also to, you know, sometimes people haven't in their own business shopped around to see what other people are charging. And I don't mean other people in your niche. I mean, you know, purchasing other services from other people. And what we find is quite fascinating is that sometimes people in, you know, just want someone to fill a hole. You know, I want someone just to help me with this, you know, little project. And we like to help people think more strategically about it. So, you know, if you're bringing someone in as a subcontractor or a virtual assistant, you know, what have you got in place that's not only going to make it easy, but also protect your intellectual property, confidentiality agreements? You know, you don't have to overbake the cake, but there's a lot of loosey-gooseys out there, you know, with a very handshake arrangements, or I've met in a Facebook group and off you go. So I think, you know, that rigor that you can bring to your business about professionalizing is also about protecting and making you have strong foundations to grow.
And giving you the confidence then to know that if something does go wrong, you've got a leg to stand on effectively. You've got to protect yourself because you are the golden goose in your business.
Yes.
So that is so incredibly valuable. So how do you, obviously you are in business with your life partner. How do you manage your life as an entrepreneur? That must be such a blurry boundary. I know just me working my business at home with your backdrop.
That's right. It looks great, by the way. Nice lighting too.
I inherited Jodie's lighting and backdrop setup. She helped me look more professional. So how do you manage your life as an entrepreneur?
Look, I have to say, initially when I left full-time employment as a CEO of a not-for-profit, I really struggled with being self-employed or as an entrepreneur. I had no boundaries about time. I had no routines, no rituals, no focus. And Rob was a lot more adaptive and better at that because he had worked on his own out in business beforehand. So, you know, he was he was definitely more advanced than me. So I think my initial sort of approach was just bouncing around and doing lots of things and lots of activity. And that was exhausting, and it didn't make us a lot of money. And when I guess, you know, there were a couple of ahas where we really thought, well, you know, and actually it was our accountant who said to us, you know, if you two don't take this seriously, you might as well go and get a job.
No, don't make me go and get a job.
I know. It's like, no. And then, you know, that was it was like a dad moment, you know, that advice where you're like, okay, we need to sort of really smarten up. And that was many years ago. And since then, we also realized that we didn't want to be spinning our wheels. So we had to really focus in on what we're good at, really good at, and what can we replicate, and not doing bespoke work and, big quotes and tenders and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
We just don't do that. And so now we've got 2 or 3 key products that we know works, we enjoy doing, and that gets results for our clients. And so that has really helped us narrow down our offerings. And the other thing that's really helped me in particular was blocking out time in my calendar. We use Acuity as one of our tools where people can schedule time, similar to Calendly, which is one that you use. And that's been a game changer too, because again, we can really set our times of when we're available, when we're doing deep focused work, when we're doing coaching. And a lot of our clients like yours, Jane, might not have time to actually work on their business during business hours. So the thing that was a real, awareness for me was that we were doing a lot of mentoring sessions outside of business hours and on weekends or workshops. But then we're working 7 days a week.
Been there.
And,
it's not fun.
Not fun at all.
No.
And again, we had to say, yes, we need flexibility. And that's important to us and to our clients. But that also means that we have to have tight boundaries about when we stop work.
Yeah.
And so we work from home, and we've got an office space that is sort of like a rumpus room. But as when it's home time, literally we turn the lights off, turn the computers off, shut the sliding doors, and we're out of there.
Yeah. And I think those boundaries, and especially around communication with clients, really important. And if someone messages you at 8 o'clock on a Sunday, you have every right not to message them back. And that was a really difficult thing for me in the start when I was starting out. And, just because someone demands your attention doesn't mean you have to give them your attention.
Yeah.
And protecting your energy and your focus, because if you're burning yourself out like we do in the early days and do that 7 days a week, again, you're the golden goose in your business. It's a really, really fast path to burnout. And if you just come off this really hard role as a CEO, you would have been winding back up again, and then you could have, it can be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think I also learned that, and this is something that we talk about with our clients, is that, we like to give as well. We like to volunteer and do pro bono things. And, there's no shortage of need.
No.
But there's a shortage of time and energy. And so, again, what works for us and we sort of recommend to other people to consider is allowing and blocking time to do some pro bono activity or, contra deals or something like that is still valuable and uses your skills, and especially for community groups or volunteer groups who can't afford the full paid work, but limiting it. I had a call the other day from someone who wants me to MC a conference, and they are fantastic to work with, and I love what they do, and it's fabulous. And I allocate time to do something like that, but there's a threshold, right?
Yeah.
And so what that enables me to do, instead of people ringing me and contacting me and saying, "Oh, please, can you do it?" and then trying to sub-store me, and and then I get all sort of, "Oh, I should help everybody and rescue." I go, "Actually, I'm really sorry, but I've allocated my time and I've used that this year. But you might like to go to this website where there's some other volunteers who might be able to help."
Yeah, I do exactly the same. I'm like, I have allocated pro bono per year. I always do it, but I'm sorry if you come to me after that after the project's done, you have to wait till next year. And you do have to protect yourself like that, because you can't rescue all the kittens, which is what I said to a client the other day. Yes. You can't rescue all the kittens. Okay. And but also that pro bono work is giving back. We have skills. We have a responsibility to our community and our society to give back. So kudos to you, Jody. So what does a great day in the office look like for you?
Oh, well, it should probably have some, other routines in there, like, morning pages and, lemon water and, walks and things like that. But I don't do any of that.
No, nor do I. Get up, I have coffee, I work.
Me too. So yeah, it definitely involves coffee. We start work about 9 o'clock. Do a few of our sort of own projects in the morning when we're fresh. Usually a client workshop of 2 or 3 hours on Zoom. And write up the outcomes of that as soon as we finish, so while it's fresh. We do a number of sales activities that includes, following up on people who've made inquiries, and developing up new products and services. And what I find is really interesting is when you start to really listen into the problems people want solved, that, sometimes we've already come up with a really good solution that's, going to help them straight away. So I like to really listen quite intensely about what are really the troubles that people are having, or the things that they need support in, because sometimes it's quite a simple solution. And another ideal part of our day would be going out for breakfast somewhere.
Nice.
And then self-care is important, so we definitely book massages and things like that, where we to look forward to, and ensure that we are looking after ourselves as well.
Yeah, rewards are important. And it's interesting because I like to go, like, if I hit this, then I get to do that. And I think that booking in time for you is a business development activity. But you talk about listening to people's problems. I always talk to clients about, what are your FAQs? There's gold in FAQs. And, it can be really simple stuff, or you listen to FAQs about barriers to sale, and addressing them, really upfront, either in your social or your website, that they can be gold too. So that listening to in a different type of way to your clients is really valuable in terms of informing sales. Anyway, I could talk about that all day. What you've mentioned Acuity. So what are your favorite tools in business?
Oh, we're both big fans of different technology solutions. So our all-time favorite is Asana for project managements and tasks. In fact, after this podcast interview today, I'm doing a demonstration for the X Factor Collective, which is a social impact group, just on how we onboard clients and use their forms in Asana, which is a really neat feature if people aren't utilising it. And forms, sometimes people have a Google form they get clients to fill in as part of the intake, but with using Asana forms, it goes right into the platform itself, and you can have it all in one spot. Acuity for scheduling client appointments, that's a game changer. We've been using that for years, especially in different time zones. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Time is one of those things I can't work out. And I go, look, here's my calendar, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. and it's interesting, a lot of people in the social enterprises and not-for-profits who are not familiar with it. Small business owners are a bit more familiar with it, with, the Book Me button on Facebook and things like that. Other tools, well, we use Google products, Gmail, Google Drive. We've got a really good backup system, so that we've got access to our files no matter where we are, but we've also got backups in case there's any cyber issues.
Yes.
Which is very important.
IT manager.
Yes.
He's handy like that.
Yeah. Zoom, of course, that's
my favourite.
A game changer. And I was saying to someone recently that, we started working remotely before it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Or a necessary thing with other global pandemic situations. The other tools we use, particularly calendar blocking. So that's a big thing that really helps me keep focused and really be very productive. We use Xero for our accounting, which we love. That's super easy.
Who thought we'd ever be talking about how much we love accounting software? But here we are.
That's right. Well, actually, when we first started our first business, we went and saw my previous accountant. And I say previous because, I had to break up with him because The worst advice I was given was, okay, you're just a small business and you're just starting out, use an Excel spreadsheet.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
that's not efficient.
No.
No.
And really what he was saying is, I don't like and use these software products, so you should just use what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, because it'll make my life easier.
That's correct. Not what's going to make my life easier. Yeah.
That's not service.
Not a service. Yeah, lovely man, but pretty old school. So Xero is fantastic, and I guess I'd really encourage lots of your listeners as well on the podcast, because a lot of people think that they're not good at money or managing bookkeeping things, and we outsourced our bookkeeping a couple of years ago. I still raise invoices and do our payroll, but there are some really neat things that they can do as well. So I love that, and we love automations. We're at the point in our business where we're now starting to move and expand from the one-on-one client work or group work to some more digital products. We've been looking at different options there in terms of platforms for online learning and things too. So that's exciting.
Interesting. I love an online learning. I used to be on Thinkific, and now I'm on MemberVault because it's very simple. But there's so many options out there for LMS, learning management software systems. Anyway, so many. Integrate with your website, do all sorts of things. I was looking at one this morning for a client. But anyway, so one of the things that I always ask is, one of the things that affects most entrepreneurs I know is imposter syndrome. So what are your methods to overcome this, and how do you respond to the bad days in business? Because we all have them, despite how shiny we are on Instagram.
Absolutely. Yeah. Imposter syndrome for me is probably thinking that we need to do more work on something to make it better. And in fact, maybe overbaking the cake, and that it's not good enough, or people might think that we're not delivering, enough value, or it might not be solving all their problems. And I think what's helped me overcome that is really to think about, well, sometimes people actually just appreciate being heard, and that if we can help instill confidence within them for them to take action, then everything else is a possibility, right? But if we don't hold space for people, if we don't support them in a way and to help them take imperfect action, then they're not going to get the results. And so when I say that out loud, I go, oh, I should really take that advice myself.
FYI me.
So and I'm not a perfectionist. I really am not. But sometimes I think, but I could keep adding and adding and adding.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes that makes it too complex.
Yep. Been there, done that.
Yep.
And it's hard because that, I think, is a reflection on often we underprice things, and then we try to value stuff them.
Value stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So we're trying to put more and more into things, so we're justifying the pricing to ourselves, when in fact we're overcomplicating the solution for our clients. And in fact, if we just give them the simple solution, they go, oh yeah, I can actually clearly see how I would get an outcome from that. Therefore, I get there quicker, like you're talking about earlier with your client. Therefore, it has more value for me.
Yep.
To me. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. So how do you maintain your sense of community in business?
I think it's about making time to catch up with other entrepreneurs, and it could be a Zoom chat, it could be face to face, depending on our proximity. But I think it's about making time to just check in and care and spend time together. I think that's really important. And I used to think that networking events and things like that were sort of lots of activity and sort of busyness. But I've realized that I do get a lot of energizing from being, in a room full of people. Not all the time, I am quite introverted. So, there are times where I'll go, I've had my fix, and then I'll come home again.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my cave now. See ya.
Exactly. But, I do enjoy that sense of community where you have these random conversations with people. And it could be, you know, at a coffee station at an event, or it could be just, you know, in the bathrooms when you're coming and going, you know, or you're just out of the car and you just bump into someone and just get chatting. And I like those random conversations that may never go beyond that, but it's about, you know, just feeling connected with other people and knowing that there are lots of amazing people all on their own journey, and you know, there's always things to learn, and there's also people who are interested in thinking about how they could show up and sort of maybe be a bit more involved in communities. So I like to sort of think about ways that we can help instill some confidence for people to step up and do something out of their comfort zone.
that old comfort zone. It's funny, you know, it's you can have a little conversation or a pep talk with someone at a conference or at an event, and they go, "Oh my God, you've just changed my life." And you go, "Yeah, job done. I'm gone."
I had breakfast with some friends the other day, and we were talking about when you're in a situation where people keep piling on extra work, usually an employer type thing, but it can happen with clients. And I said, well, you know, really one of the things I like to say is, if you'd like me to do this, what would you like me to stop doing? And the two of them looked at each other and was like a truth bomb. And they're like, "Oh my God, high five." And I was like, "Really?" And they're like, yeah, that's gold. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Okay. And that's that whole thing of sometimes you just need someone from the outside looking in and going, "You know what? You don't have to do that." And you go, "Oh, really? I give you permission. I give you permission." So I love it. I love it. So what's your why? What keeps you motivated? And this probably goes with Rob and your whole business ethos.
Well, we love working together. I mean, this is something that we feel really blessed that we can do, and that we actually really enjoy each other's company.
Bonus.
Yeah, which is a bonus. I mean, not all couples in business do.
No.
I do have a rule though that you know, when it's time for bed, we don't talk about work. But I think our why is really sort of helping people achieve their goals in whatever it is. And live a good life and not be working all the time. And so, you know, my family ran this a small business all of my life, and did that really well with a lot of hard work, but also a lot of family time. And so I think our why is to help people, you know, live their best life, and earn the money that they want, and do things that are creative and that light them up and that challenge them.
I love that, living a good life, because so often we start business to have freedom, and it does not work out that way. So
no.
Yeah, I love that. So what are your tips then for all the smart women in business across the world?
Oh, all the tips. Wow.
All your top tips.
Top tips. If you're not paying yourself, you ought to be. Number one. Even if it's a small, you know, amount to start with, I think that really helps you have a sense of achievement and self-worth and feel good about yourself. I think it's my other top tip would be take time out of the week to work on the business. You know, we help people with a pretty simple business planning approach, and you know, there's no point doing something like that if you don't have time to implement, if you're only ever servicing clients' needs or responding to everyone else's needs. So work on the business is really important, and take time out for you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So thank you, Jodie. How can listeners find out more about you and your work?
Thank you. I've really enjoyed talking with you, Jane. Thank you so much. Listeners can go to happychangemakers.com is our website, or Happy Changemakers on Facebook. And if people have things that they want to know or questions, we're happy to answer them at any time. Not on the couch while we're watching Married at First Sight, though.
Yeah, which I still haven't caught up on, but it's all right. I've got MasterChef to watch now.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Jodie. I'll put your links in the show notes so everyone can find you. And it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Smart Women in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and don't forget to subscribe.